Arizona lawmakers this weekend approved a bipartisan budget that erases a $1.4 billion shortfall. Lawmakers in both parties expressed disappointment in the spending plan, but the votes were there. And here to break it down, we welcome Mary Jo Pitzel, veteran Capitol reporter for the Arizona Republic and azcentral.com. Busy weekend for you. Thanks for joining us.
Great. Thank you. Hope to catch up on my sleep sometime.
Yes. Well, hold off on that just for a little bit. $1.4 billion deficit erased. How'd they do it?
Lots of cuts, sweeping money from various state agency funds. This is money that they've been setting, an agency has set aside maybe for a future project. Send it over, send it back to the general fund, and cuts, sweeps, and some fund transfers. So just a lot of cutting and moving things around.
Kind of a complicated mess here, and I think it sounds as though one of the criticisms from both the far left and the far right, and maybe a little bit in the middle here too, rank and file kind of left in the dark.
Oh yeah, this is where both ends of the spectrum sort of come around and meet each other. A lot of the Republicans who were against this budget, their main argument was that this was dumped on us, with not enough time to read. It's a big budget. It's $16.1 billion in spending. There's 16 bills associated with it, many of which are rather lengthy. We just didn't have time, and more importantly, they argued they were not brought to the table. Nobody was seeking their input until this budget leaked out, frankly, last week. On the Democratic side, the more progressive members of the caucus said this just it's a bad budget because it doesn't spend in the right priorities, and we've done nothing with the voucher program, which is costing the state more money, and they believe that's part of the cause for having a deficit. So why are we not addressing that root cause?
Yeah, and the governor, though, comes out, emphasized what she called important investments. She says in delivering child care to working families, combating the fentanyl epidemic, securing the border, protecting critical human health services for vulnerable. She's finding the positives there. Yeah. Rank and file Democrats finding the positives there?
Some are, and some aren't. It was very divided. This vote was very divided among Republicans and among Democrats. And all those things are in there. At the last minute, they got $15 million for the Housing Trust Fund, which some people looked at and said, I'm surprised we could even do that in a year when we've got a budget deficit. They thought that was a pretty big win. So there were all these other things sort of added in, especially on sort of the social services end of things, to the budget in an amendment but they're small amounts of dollars, but they might go far for the designated program. But yeah, you had to do that to get more of these Democrats on board.
Right. And throughout all of this, and we talked about this on the Roundtable Friday because this was kind of a concept then, it sounds like it's even more of one now. The Attorney General, none too pleased about money leaving from a settlement and going into prisons. What's this all about?
Well, she's trying to keep it from leaving. But Arizona received a bunch of money from the national opioid settlement a year or so ago. And that money, Attorney General Mays contends, is hers to control. The legislature can allocate the amount and say, okay, we'll free up this much money. But it's up to the Attorney General to decide where that money goes. And she thinks this budget does not follow that process. B, it takes way too much money, $195 million over 4 years, if you count a little bit what's left of this year. And it's just too much, and it's going to help out a prison system when that money should be spent out in the community helping people who are fighting opioid addiction.
And the argument on the other side is the money can go to people fighting opioid addiction in prisons.
Yes, very much, that they can use that. We do have, and Mays concedes that, of course, there are people in prison that have addiction issues, but she also wants to hit hard on the prevention side so that we keep people from getting addicted so they don't go into prison.
Right.
And this is seen by critics, this alleged transfer of money is seen as a way to sort of backfill the state prison budget. Now they've got their own problems. They have their own settlement, with the feds over lack of health care costs. Their argument is that we can use a lot of this to treat our existing inmate population, but $195 million?
So if the Attorney General does file suit, if the feds file suit, what happens to all this?
Well, I would assume somebody would seek an injunction, so you would just freeze it, and then they duke it out in court. And the Attorney General, I'm not sure, we're unclear where she's going next. I mean, she spoke very clearly that she intended to sue, that if this happened, she would sue, the feds would sue, the opioid manufacturers who have to pay out this settlement might sue because she says this would break the agreement. So they might try to get back some of their money.
There's a lot of flies in that ointment there.
There's a lot to yet be sorted out.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, with that in mind, from what happened over the weekend, signing is what, tomorrow?
Yes, we're told tomorrow the governor will sign the budget and probably act on a couple of bills as well.
Winners and losers, what are you hearing? Who's happy and who's not so happy?
Well, the three negotiators for the budget, because it really was negotiated between House Speaker Ben Toma, Senate President Warren Peterson, and Governor Katie Hobbs. They're all sort of patting themselves on the back and saying, this is as good as we could get, recognizing that with a bipartisan government, you do have to, you have to give and take a little bit. But all the legislative leaders who are Republicans that voted for this budget, almost all of the Democratic leaders in the legislature voted no. So that might tell you that they're not real happy with the deal that their governor got them. Haven't been able to draw much out of them, although Senate Minority Leader Mitzi Epstein was pretty outspoken, and her main complaint was that nothing was done to curb the universal school voucher program. She doesn't really blame the governor for that. She points out it's 2-to-1, two legislative leaders against the governor. But that has driven some of the costs to the state because the program's pretty popular. And she thinks that should be addressed, but it wasn't.
And indeed, so much. 300 some odd this year, 400 million and next fiscal. It just keeps going and going here. And the savings were what? Like maybe a guardrail was put up to save $2 million?
Yeah, there's a $2.5 million savings by changing some provisions on when somebody who is leaving a public school can then pick up an ESA, like maybe to cover summer school costs, and then go back into public school. It sort of sounds like a double dip.
Yeah, yeah. All right, and then we got sine die. It's ball game. It's over here. What happened to the impeachment of Attorney General Chris Mays?
I don't know. It just sort of, I don't know that it has totally gone away, but given that this legislature is technically or allegedly done for the year, to do anything more, you would have to bring the full legislature back into a session, which in an election year and with the frayed feelings, I don't see that happening. Also, although there was an ethics recommendation that two House lawmakers, Democrats, created disorderly conduct, and maybe they should be put up for sanctions. That didn't happen either. Yeah,
and now it's a mad rush for election and campaigning and these sorts of things.
Exactly. The primary is 6 weeks away.
Yes. For the signing tomorrow, who will be joining the governor there to make it? It kind of tells a little telling sometimes to see.
Yeah, I don't know who has been invited, but I know that the media isn't, at least at this point.
Really?
So I don't think it'll be a public event. So we will do our best to find out who was up there standing by the governor's side as she signs it, and perhaps she'll release a photo to let us know.
Perhaps. All right, Mary Jo Pitzel, great work. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Sure.